We now come to the second day of Holy Week. It's Monday, March 30th, AD 33. Jesus and his disciples, they spent the night in Bethany, and they decide to make their journey westward back into the city of Jerusalem. And here we see Jesus engage in two of his most unusual, startling activities. First of all, as they're walking towards Jerusalem, he sees a fig tree. It won't provide him breakfast, and he instantly calls down a curse upon that tree. And then when he actually makes his way to the Temple Mount, he begins overturning the tables, driving out the money changers, sending the pilgrims scattering away. What's going on here? Well, why would Jesus curse an innocent tree just because it wouldn't provide him with food? And what can we learn about the place of the temple in Jewish life, and about the way in which Jesus taught his disciples? And how does all of this fit into the final storyline of Jesus' march toward Calvary?
For many readers of the New Testament, Jesus cursing on the fig tree is one of the oddest things they will ever read. I think the answer is actually provided in the text of Scripture itself. First of all, when we go to the Gospel of Mark, we see a literary technique that most scholars call a Markan sandwich. What a Markan sandwich is that we have one thing going on here, something else, and then a third piece that's very similar to this piece. So two pieces of bread with the meat in the middle. What we learn about this literary technique as it's deployed over and over again in the Gospel of Mark is that the two pieces of bread are related to the meat in the sandwich, and they mutually interpret each other. So we know that the curse on the fig tree must have something to do with the cleansing of the temple. The other thing we learn from Scripture is that, especially in the Old Testament, is that the fig tree is closely associated with Israel. This all comes together then when we see Jesus goes in the temple, cleanses it as an act of judgment against Israel. Just earlier, he had cursed the fig tree. What's happening is in cursing the fig tree, he is parabolically judging Israel, saying, you haven't borne fruit unto Yahweh, and as a result, you are cursed.
The temple was not just the heart of Judaism, it wasn't just central religion. The temple was the actual presence, the physical, living presence of God in his glory among his people. Therefore, Jesus teaching in the temple every time he went, and especially in pilgrimage times when the Jewish people were coming from Rome and from Babylon and from Alexandria and from all over the world, then Christ was bringing the Jewish people home to hear the voice of God in his house. When Jesus spoke elsewhere, it was synagogal. That the synagogues were originally developed to be a presence of the temple. This was especially during the exile, and the temple had been destroyed. Then they were the temple in all parts of the Jewish world. When rabbis went to a synagogue, they are very often asked to speak. There was a much more informal air than what we have today, where we have pastors who are always speaking every Sunday. But it was the common word for the official teachers of Judaism. And so Christ was already viewed as a teacher / rabbi, but at the same time, the leaders totally opposed him because what he was teaching was so much in conflict with what they were teaching. So he was accepted as a teacher and rabbi by the people, but rejected by the leaders.